Does this all make sense? Thumbs up. Okay, let's do this. And so I'm so happy to introduce our first presenter, Dr. Mara Gottlieb. Dr. Gottlieb is the president of Talking Changes, an anti-oppression and bias awareness consulting firm. And for over 20 years, she has run workshops across the country, including serving as a keynote speaker and presenting at the National Association of Social Workers conferences. I had the pleasure of being introduced to Mara by our good friend. I'm doing a shout out for Courtney O'Mealy in the School of Social Work. So I want to thank Courtney for helping us and introducing us to Dr. Mara. So Dr. Mara, the floor is yours, and look forward to hearing your presentation.
Oh my goodness. Alan, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to take it as a sign of how much it means to me to be here, that I am as nervous as I've been in probably about 15 years of doing this. So I'm sure it'll subside, but I want to thank you so much for asking me to do this and tell you a little bit, tell the group that's here. First of all, thank you for being here. Unbelievable that we have 143 people here to talk about cultural humility and cultural competence and how I think to just be most respectful to students in general. I mean, I feel like that's at the bottom of this. I received my PhD from the NYU Silver School of Social Work in 2014, and my dissertation was on the connection between self-compassion and cultural competence. So the question I was asking is, does my ability to be compassionate toward my own identities have an effect on my ability to work cross-culturally with other people? And thankfully, the answer to it was absolutely yes. But while I was studying this term, cultural competence, and I want to be really clear in what I'm saying, I'm only speaking for me. So this has been my perspective and the focus of my work, but does not speak for anybody else on this panel or for anyone else who is attending. What I began to notice, that I'm going to talk about in some slides, is that I felt uncomfortable with the term competence. That to me, the term competence suggested a kind of arrogance, almost a notion that we could master something as complex and intersectional as culture. And I wanted to find a term that felt more inclusive to me, and also that really spoke a little bit more to the process of respecting people's cultures. And so I began to look at the literature and found this term, cultural humility. I'm going to share my screen with you. What I ended up doing was writing an article that was accepted by the Journal of Ethnic and Cultural Diversity in Social Work. I have since written a shorter version of it that you all will be provided after at the end of this presentation, that has just been accepted by the magazine, The New Social Worker. And so this is just a little bit, I wanted for this conversation to begin with us all being on the same page, with having some information, at least with what I have come to understand cultural humility to mean. So with that being said, my first effort in thinking about this term was to create an understanding of the term cultural that was inclusive enough to encompass absolutely any way that we or our students identify ourselves. So absolutely, it is inclusive of race and skin color, which is often, I think, what people default to when thinking about cultural competence, but also to include ethnicity, socioeconomic status, religion, gender identity, sexual identity, citizenship, ability, education, mental health status, family constellation, addiction, age, caregiver status, trauma, survivorship. If it is an identity that is shaping my reality, then it fits in this definition of culture. And in that way, culture stops being about them, somebody outside of me, and starts to be something that I can embrace and understand and begin to take a deeper look at in terms of how culture has affected me throughout my life. And then there is the second part to this, which is this notion of humility. It was pretty funny. A lot of the dictionary definitions would say it was the quality of being humble. I was like, thank you, great. Well, what does humble mean? And in our culture, The notion of humility is something that often gets confused, I think, with being debased or made smaller or humiliated in some way. And I really want to rescue it from that, because according to Buddhist tradition, according to Hindu tradition, according to Christian traditions, humility is, it's really the state of being teachable, of not being proud or haughty and not arrogant or assertive, but offered in a spirit of deference, kind of that I am walking with you rather than trying to direct where you go. And then this second definition, the feeling or attitude that you have no special importance that makes you better than others. And so I began to work off of those two definitions, and I created a model that I'm going to go through very, very quickly. And I'm happy to answer more questions about it. But at the root of cultural humility is this idea of being teachable, of a softness almost, of a willingness to say, I am not the expert on your life. You are the expert on your life. And if I can understand that, then together we will come to solutions that are far better for you than anything that I might have kind of thought of myself. And in this notion of being teachable, that there are four kind of arenas or systems from which we need to learn more information in order to begin to cultivate this humility. One of them is certainly learning from our students or our clients and really being willing to hear their story and hear how they understand their own world versus how the story that I might make or the assumptions that I might make based on my own cultural relativism, my own lens through which I see the world. I need to have the courage to learn from trusted colleagues. I need to not stay in a bubble. I need to be willing to talk to other people and say, this is what I got out of this interaction, but do you see something else? Is there something that I'm missing? And have those people be people who I trust to have my back and to respect me, but who I also trust to challenge me. I'm going to talk more about that, but I cannot remain in an echo chamber and be culturally humble. I have to be willing to hear others' perspectives. I need to learn the impacts of systems on my students or on my clients. There's that saying, I don't know where it came from, but it's not paranoia if somebody's really been following you. And what somebody says is a feeling of unsafety. Let me hear about your life. Why do you have that ongoing feeling of unsafety? What has happened for you that has led you to that? There's a new kind of social work model that's called trauma-informed social work. And the distinction really is, rather than what is wrong with you, kind of looking for pathology and asking instead, what happened to you? And to me, that is really aligned with a cultural humility practice of really wanting to better understand from a systems perspective how you got to the person that I am meeting in this room at this moment. But then the last part that I feel like cultural humility does a better job with, if I may say that, or that it really requires in a way that cultural competence sometimes does and sometimes doesn't, is I need to look at myself. I need to look at my own identities, because the way that I was raised shapes or colors the lens through which I see the world. And if I'm not willing to acknowledge that, then I am bound to impose my own perspectives on other people. So again, this is not written in stone. This is my own perspective. This is what I came to and what I have written about. I want to talk a little bit about the differences that I see between cultural humility versus cultural competence. And I do want to say that for my colleagues who are on this call with me, and I'm so looking forward to hearing your perspective and to getting pushback on this and creating a richer dialogue than anything that I might already be thinking about. From the reading that I did, the work that I did, cultural competence more often than not has a suggestion, just with the word competent, that culture can be mastered, that there is a finish line of some kind, that we can sort of plant our flag and say, I understand this culture. It is often, although not always, conceptualized around race or ethnicity. I think that when people are told they need to attend a cultural competence training, the default assumption is going to be that we're going to be talking about race and skin color. And that with cultural competence, the primary focus of it, the way that it's worded, is that it is a focus on the other, which without actually saying it kind of centers me as the normal one. I'm getting to know your exotic or different culture so that I can make you feel comfortable because I already feel comfortable. And to me, there's sort of a conceit to that, or a colonialist perspective to that, that kind of plays into the hierarchy that I think is killing us, the hierarchy that is the reason behind the existence of structural racism and other forms of embedded discrimination in our culture. The ways that cultural humility is different is that cultural humility suggests that culture is shaped by society, and therefore the value of it, the messages around it, are always changing. There is no time. It is a moving target. There's never a finish line. It is inclusive of any and every identity that is important to us or important to our students. There is nothing that gets left out of this in terms of how it shapes our identities. Alan, if I'm getting close to the 2-minute mark, just please holler. It's not rude. I just want to make sure that I have enough time. So just let me know. So there.
2 minutes now.
What was that?
2 minutes now, Mara.
2 minutes now? So with cultural humility, there is a focus on ourselves as well as this notion of an other, and it is non-hierarchical. It is the understanding of it is really, as I'm going to show you on the next page, not one of us is exempt from holding biases. We all hold them. But that being said, none of us needs to shame or blame anybody into highlighting those biases. We can excavate these biases. This is an individual inside job that is my choice, my journey to take when I feel that it's the time that I need to, because outside sources put that pressure on me, or because it comes naturally from within me. But cultural humility and excavating these biases is done on our own timeline without shame or blame. It flies in the face of a society that expects us to already be experts, to not make any mistakes. It encourages us to be curious rather than judgmental. How do I learn how to ask questions rather than making assumptions or trying to tell somebody else's story? And again, that notion that this is non-hierarchical, that sees each of us as equals with so much to bring to the table. This will be included in your slides, but just there are several steps to this: committing ourselves to an ongoing process of compassionate self-awareness and inquiry, cultivating this trusted and cognitively diverse group of colleagues who can challenge us on our beliefs and support us, being open and teachable, striving to see cultures as our clients see them rather than as we have come to know or define them, constantly being open to a different understanding of cultures we may even think that we're familiar with. And last but not least, being willing to consider the social structures and systems that help shape reality as our clients experience it. To not just say, because it's not happening to me does not mean that it's not reality for them. I need to be aware of my own power, of my own authority in that situation, and try to equalize that imbalance as much as possible. So there's my 10 minutes, and I look forward to answering any of your questions and to adding to the conversation later on. Thanks.